Hi students, this is the fourth video of chord progressions, and these will be the most complex of all of the ones we've done so far. This is page 5 and 6 in the chord progression packet that you can find in files on our Canvas website. You can also find it in this week's module under your class. So the page 5 and 6 is underneath the intermediate piano class. Okay, so these, you need a little bit more theoretical understanding to really kind of grasp the concept of these, but you can still play them even if you don't totally understand them. That's fine too. So I'm going to give just a little bit of basic explanation, but if you want to learn more, you can study a little bit more through some theory lessons. Okay, so page 5 are some progressions using secondary dominants. And a secondary dominant is basically, it's a dominant of another chord in your scale. So if we're in the C scale, and our 4 chord, or our subdominant, is the F chord, right? So the dominant of the F chord is C, and the dominant 7th would be C, E, G, B flat. So we call that a secondary dominant. That's the subdominant's dominant. So this first progression in example 1 starts with the tonic, C major. Then it goes to the dominant of the 4 chord. Then it goes to the 4 chord. Then it goes to the dominant of C, the key we're in. So you can hear this, the secondary dominant just is a richer harmony that leads you into the subdominant. I'll play it one more time. Here's the secondary dominant. Example 2 has a secondary dominant of the dominant chord. So again, in the key of C, our dominant is G. So G is the dominant of C. The dominant of G is D. So if we build a 5-7 on D, that's D, F sharp, A, C. That's the dominant 7 of the G chord. So in this example, we start with the C chord, go to the subdominant or the F chord. Now I'm going to go to the dominant of the G chord, which is D7. That leads us into the G7, and that takes us back to C. It makes a nice middle voice there. You have E to F sharp, back to F, back to E. It's a nice voice leading. Okay, example 3 is a whole series of secondary dominants. So we start from the tonic, then we go to the dominant of the 6th chord, and the secondary dominant is always followed by whatever chord it belongs to. So we go from C, here's the dominant of the 6th chord, E7, that leads us to the 6th chord. Now we're headed towards the 4 chord, so we're going to do the dominant of the 4 chord. That leads to the 4 chord. So dominant of the 2 chord leads you to the 2 chord. Then we're going to spice up the 2 chord, make it diminished. Take us to an inversion of the C chord. G7, dominant leads us back to our tonic. Here's that one more time. Has a really nice sound to it. Moving on to page 6. Now we're going to talk about modulations. So again, if you're not don't have the theory background to understand modulations yet, that's okay. You can still play these. Basically what a modulation means is you are actually changing keys. You're starting in one key and you're finishing in a totally new key. And this happens a lot in music, right? Especially in the middle of a piece. You're going to travel away from your main key, your tonic, go somewhere else for a while, and then usually you modulate back. So I'm just going to give you a few common examples here. Example 1 is modulating to the dominant key. So that means if we're starting in the key of C, the dominant key is G major. So we're going to travel from C major to G major. And the way we usually do that most of the time in music, there's one chord that could fit in both keys, and that's what we call the pivot chord. So in this first example, you can see when you get to the 6th chord of C major, the 6th chord of C major is A minor. A minor can also function as the 2 chord of G major. So it's got one foot in both worlds. It's going to help you move from the old key to the new key. So here I'm starting in C major, 5/7, back to C major. To the 6th chord, all I have to do is change to the A. Now that's going to function also as the 2 chord that's taking me to my G major chord. That's the 5/7 of G major. And now here we are in G major. So we started in C. Here's our pivot chord. Now we're leading to the tonic, the new tonic, G major. Okay, another way you can modulate is to go to the subdominant key, which would be F major. If we're traveling from C major, the subdominant is F major. So in C major, 1, 2, 3, 4, our dominant is F, subdominant. And also, the dominant of F is C, which takes us back to C. So you're going to see that the pivot chord in this example is the C chord. So we're starting in C, 5/7. Now we're C chord again, but now we're making that start to function as a dominant. And now we're just going to add the dominant 7th, make it even stronger case, and that takes us to F. C again, F major. So one more time, C major, pivot, dominant 7th of our new key, F, and an F major. The third example modulates from the major key to the relative minor key. So hopefully you remember that every major key has a relative minor with the same key signature. So relative of C is A minor. So we're going to travel from the key of C major to the key of A minor. The way we do that, again, is with a pivot chord. Start with C major, 5/7, back to C. Now I'm playing A minor, which is 6 in C major, but now it's our new tonic. That's going to take us to D minor. Here's dominant of our new key, A minor. So C major, pivot chord, 5 of the new key, and now we've made it to A minor. And the last progression is taking you back from A minor back to C major. So let's hear how that works. We start in A minor, 5/7 of A minor, A minor again, an inversion. Now that's also functioning as a 6 in C. Take us to the supertonic, which is D minor, C major, G7, dominant of C. One more time. So that at least gets the sounds in your ears of some of these more complex types of progressions. And if you're curious about all the functioning chords of that, I encourage you to research that in some music theory lessons. Okay, happy practicing.